Listen, if your slap test still hurts every time you lift, here's the crazy part. You can relieve that pain instantly with this ball. These trigger point releases were taught to me by an elite sports physio, and they work even when stretching and rehab fail. I'll show you exactly where to use them, how much pressure to apply, and the best time to do it. But most people miss the one muscle that relieves nearly 90% of shoulder pain and the magic stretch to hit it. So don't skip this. By the end, you'll know exactly how to release the pain today. And if you're ready to fix the root cause, I've got a slap tear rehab blueprint for you, including a full workout to get you started. Links in the description. There are 5 areas that we're going to hit with this massage ball. And to start with, we're going to be doing the pecs here. You're going to lay down on the ground, and we're basically going to be going anywhere around the pec here. So if you can't get your arm up like this, if that's too painful, you can try doing it with your arm like this, or you can do it up against a wall. Now, what you're basically doing is looking for the painful spot. So the spot that feels the most pain, and then you're going to push right in there as hard as you can and hold for 10 seconds. I learned this from my friend Nilesh Murthy, who's a sports physiotherapist for some of the elite football clubs in Australia. Currently, he's the head physio for the Newcastle Knights. This guy works with professional athletes. He is the best of the best when it comes to physiotherapy. Now, when he was doing these trigger point releases, I was asking him, are you hitting the pec minor there? Are you doing the lower fibers of the pec major? And he said, no, I'm just finding the tight spots and I'm applying pressure in there. Now, of course, he was doing it with his fingers. And I asked him what the goal of this was, because it's really painful. Like when he was digging in, I'm going, like this, and he'd hold it for 10 seconds and then release it. And he said, basically, I'm trying to give you a stronger pain response than you're currently feeling in your shoulder, in an area that is tight, because the tightness, what people call knots, that's the nervous system locking down the muscles. It's tightening up the muscles in response to a perceived threat. So you're basically giving it a greater pain response to show the nervous system that, oh, you know what? It's actually not so bad to move your shoulder around like this. So when he showed me how to do it with a physio ball, he made a real point of saying, find those painful spots and really dig in there. And we're starting with the pecs because they're internal rotators. So when they're tight, they internally rotate the shoulder, and that causes shoulder impingement, which increases the pain when you try and do pressing and move your shoulder around. Next, we're doing the rhomboids and the mid and lower trapezius. So it's the muscles that are between the scapula here. So what you've got to do, put the ball on the ground. This is one of the easier ones to do. And you basically just find those tight spots, and then you try and lift as much weight onto that ball as you can and hold it for 10 seconds. So remember, we're going to move around, we're going to find those tight spots, and then you're going to lift, try and get as much pressure on there as you can, hold it for 10 seconds, breathe through it, relax, and then find another one. Now, the amount of time that you spend on each area of your body really just depends on how severe the pain is. So sometimes if I've just got a little bit of pain, a little bit of discomfort, and I feel like it's going to be hard to train, I'll find the area that feels the tightest, and I'll spend maybe a couple of minutes on there. Other times, I've had it in the earlier phases of my slap tear rehab, where I would wake up after a workout and I would have so much pain that I felt like I couldn't do a workout. And it's a scary feeling. You feel like you've gone backwards. Most of the time you haven't. And on a day like that, sometimes my entire workout would just be trigger point release. I'd spend maybe 20 or 30 minutes just doing trigger point release, really slowly, not rushing, finding these spots and just spending the time in there and doing all of the 5 areas that I'm going to be showing you now. Next, we move on to the lat. And the lat is a huge muscle. It's the biggest individual muscle in the body. So it connects onto the top of the humerus up here, and then it has a whole bunch of insertions running down the spine, right down to your pelvis. So there's a lot of different areas we're going to do, but we're going to start with the upper lat. So you're going to get under your arm here, just on the other side of your shoulder, and you're going to lay on it. And this is that one muscle. In Nilesh's own words, he said, how tight are your lats, when I started my slap tear rehab with him. And I showed him and he said, yeah, the lats, if you create flexibility in the lats, you can alleviate 90% of shoulder pain. So this one's really, really important. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you the best stretches from people that are really tight to people that are really flexible for the lats that you can do that honestly give instant pain relief for your slap test. So make sure you stick around for that. So I'm finding those tight spots. So you kind of have to roll forward a little bit. Like you're basically moving around in 2 dimensions. You know, you're moving in all different directions to find the spot. There we go, there's one. And you'll find that tight spot. And then the idea is to just maneuver your body so that you can put as much pressure on it. And if you do it, when you get a really tight spot, like I wouldn't be able to talk like this as I'm doing it. It's so intense when you find a tight spot. You really just got to sort of breathe through it. You hold it for about 10 seconds and then you move on to the next one. So this first part for the lats, you're basically always on the side of your body, and you can move right down to here, like, you know, to this mid part of your lat, I should say, not the lower part, so the mid part. So you think of the lat, when you see it from behind, it's, you know, in a bodybuilder, it creates this Christmas tree look, you know, the upside down Christmas tree. And once we've done the upper part of the lats like this, we're going to move to the lower part. Now for the lower part of the lat, this is for sure the most uncomfortable part of this whole trigger point release routine. So what you're going to do is we're going to get, it's basically down on this lower part of your back. So from between the rib cage and the pelvis and pretty close to the spine. And what you'll do is we're going to go down here, and it's funny, you'd think, how on earth could trigger point release in your lower back affect your shoulder? Well, it absolutely does, because we're hitting the lat, which is the biggest muscle that controls shoulder movement. So I'm going to get down, I'm going to find one of these tight spots, and there's really 2 versions for this one. The easier version, where you kind of do like a crunch, so you've still got your bum on the ground, and you're putting as much pressure in as you can that way. And then there's the intense version, which is where you do a crunch, but you also push with your legs so that your butt comes off the ground. So now the only points that are touching the ground, also that are touching anything, is my feet on the ground and the point of my back on the ball. And that is really intense. And you hold it for 10 seconds, find that spot, and you maybe just do like 2 or 3 spots for this one, because it's so intense when you do the lower part of your lat and you're pushing your whole body off the ground and putting it on the ball. And I was amazed at how much relief this gave me in my shoulder when Nilesh did it to me for the first time. So the 5th and final area is a very close second to the lower lat for the most intense. So now we're going to be doing all of these muscles here. So the upper trap, the levator scapula, all of those scapular elevators and the muscles next to the neck. So for this one, because you need to be able to put pressure that way, what you want to do is get a door frame or the edge of a wall like this. This is perfect. And what I'm going to do is come down here and apply pressure that way. So I'm pushing my body here and finding that tight spot and holding for 10 seconds. And when you do this, you want to think of doing this in a couple of different ways. You want to think of going on this part where the pressure's going down towards the body, but then you also want to think of doing the neck like this here, where the pressure's kind of going in. So for that one, you've got to kind of get on a side angle a little bit, so you've got to play around with it. And you want to, like, you'll find that if you have the ball here versus the ball there, it'll be completely different, and neither is right or wrong. You're just finding the areas where it's the tightest for you, and you have to really sort of get creative and maneuver your body around. Oh, there's a good one for me. Because there's so many different muscles, and there's so many different areas of the muscles where you could be experiencing these spasms, you know, what people call knots. So you've just got to work around, find those spots, and get some relief. For the lat stretch, I'm going to show you 3 different versions of a stretch, and they're going to increase in intensity with each one. So the first one, you're basically just going to grab onto a pole or a door frame. Like if this was a door where I'd walk through there, if I grabbed onto that side, that works fine. And just by letting my body go back like this, so I'm really creating flexion in the spine and just pushing my body back, that's going to create a stretch in the lat. Now, the lower you go with your chest, so the more that you get your arm into shoulder flexion, the more intense the stretch is going to be. So if you want to make it a little bit more intense, you come down a little bit further until eventually you're coming right down like this for the most intense version. So you can see I'm even looking under my arm here. Now what I can do to increase the stretch is if I push my shoulders this way, like that, and rotate into it. So and pushing the shoulders down more this way, all of those things are going to increase the stretch, and now I can feel the stretch in there. If that's too easy, we're going to do passive hanging. Passive hanging is an incredible stretch for the lats. So The goal is to be able to do 60 seconds unbroken. But if you can't do that, try and do an accumulated total of between 30 and 90 seconds. So if that takes you 2, 3, or 4 sets, and you're basically just going to hang on to a pull-up bar and relax. There's a way that you can bridge it by having your feet on a step. So if your feet were on a box or if you had a low pull-up bar, you can take some of the weight off your hands that way. And for the most intense lat stretch, we're going to jump on the rings. So for this one, I use a gymnastics ring that's roughly about chin height, and I'll show you a couple of different ways that you can change the intensity of this one. So if we're stretching the right arm, the left leg will be forward, the right leg will be out behind you like this. Okay, and from here, that's the least intense way to do it because I'm taking a little bit of the pressure on this leg here, okay? And then if you want to go to the more intense way, then you bring this foot here, okay? And that is such a wicked stretch for the lats there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm trying to relax my body into it, but what I also want to do is play around with turning this way and turning this way. And you're basically looking for the spot where you feel the most intense stretch. And then you want to hold for 30 seconds. And your time starts at the moment that you feel that really intense stretch. So you move around a bit, and there it is. And that's when I start timing for 30 seconds. Trigger point release like this is part of what we call load management. And it's just one of the 9 tools inside the Unified Movement System that actually fixes the root cause of a slap tear. I've made an incredible blueprint explaining it all that includes a full workout. Just hit the link in the description or tap the screen right there. That will show you how you can move pain-free, lift at full capacity, and even outperform your younger self.